Hello and welcome to the Dixon's on Tour YouTube channel. This is my first ever YouTube video, so I'll apologise now if the editing is not great, the angles are not great, but hopefully it will show you how I reupholstered my Caravan seats. There were nothing wrong with the seats that we had, I just wanted to modernise this Caravan. We've got an Eldis Explore 540 2011. And I just wanted to add a bit of colour. So here is a sneak peek of the finished angled cushions. So I'll show you how to do those and the seat cushions. It applies to any cushion really, so I don't need to show you how I did every single one. It'll just show you how I did the buttons to get them tight and how I upholstered the whole cushion. So I hope you find it useful, and if you do find it useful, give me a thumbs up and like our channel. So all you'll need for to reupholster the cushions is the fabric in which you choose. I bought mine off Amazon. I'll put all the links in the description. You'll need some buttons, whether you reuse the ones that are already in your cushions or you want some new ones. So I bought some self-cover buttons and covered them myself. You'll need an upholstery needle and thread to pull the button through, some plyboard and a trusty staple gun. So this is a handheld one, I'm sure you can get electric ones and things, so I just use this to staple the fabric. And a lot of hard work, a bit of fiddly, but you'll hopefully find it useful. So thank you for watching and I hope you find it useful. So first up is find a flat surface to lay your fabric out so that we can measure and cut it to size for the cushion that you're wanting to reupholster. You're then going to select the cushion that you're wanting to reupholster and lay it flat on the fabric. I then measured all the way around the edge so I knew how much fabric that we're going to need. Remember to bring it slightly over as well to the plyboard so that when you're pulling the fabric nice and tight, you'll be able to staple it to the plyboard. So I'm showing that it's about 38 inches the width in order to give me a good pullover of fabric to staple it to the plyboard later on. So now I'm going to measure the fabric all the way down to the bottom of 38 inches through it all and then cut it in a straight line. You'll notice that I didn't measure it horizontally across for the bottom of the fabric. I know that this is long enough to cover the whole of this cushion lengthwise, so I'll cut the excess fabric once I've stapled it. Once you've finished cutting the fabric, place your cushion on the fabric flat and pick up the plyboard to place on the back. I cut this earlier, so it might be a time to measure it now, or you can do it beforehand. I already knew what size plyboard I needed. I then pull all the fabric over and just pin it in place, just so it holds it in place for when we're going to do the buttons. Once the fabric's pinned, you can then remove the plyboard in order to next do the buttons. Next up, the buttons. So depending what kind of Caravan seats you've got, mine initially had tape back buttons, so I'm just cutting the tape back bottom out, which will then allow me to pull the existing buttons through to get rid of those. I'm going to replace them with my own buttons that I've covered myself. As you can see with these type of cushions, it's quite easy to see where the buttons were. It's easy to feel with your fingers, so I'm going to know where to put the new ones. So now for the buttons, just make sure your fabric's all flat and where you want it to be. I've then got some button thread or twine, it's also known as. It's quite a thick material so it won't snap. This is going to pull your buttons through to give it that tight look. So I've cut it in order just to guess size of how long I think the twine needs to be, and I'm going to attach the button through. These are just loop back buttons. I'll then get my 10-inch upholstery needle and thread the button thread through. It's quite a fiddly job. I'm then going to have a feel around for where the buttons used to be. It's quite easy with this style of caravan seating of where the button was. Oh, the thread's fallen out. To rethread it. So thread it from the top and then push the needle through. Just be careful with this because I've hurt myself many times and stabbed myself with the needle. It's very, very sharp. So I'm going to push it through and see where the other side is. It is near where the other button used to be. This might take some pulling through the fabric. It does take me quite a while to pull this through. My hands were slipping through, so just persevere with it and it will eventually come all the way through the fabric. So once the needle's through, you'll see when you pull it through it'll pull the thread, and this is where we tighten the buttons. So for tightening the buttons, I'm using just an old tea towel. You need something to tie the fabric to keep the buttons tight. So I just cut a little small rectangle to put between the thread. As I tighten round it, it'll tighten the button and really pull it in. So as you can see, it's pulled the button in and created that tightness and pulled the fabric. Don't worry about the fabric ruching all around it. We'll straighten that out when we come to staple it to the plyboard. So once I've done that, I then tie the twine in a knot so it won't pull through. It'll stay nice and tight. I'm now marking out for the next button so it's in line with the other one. Again, it's quite easy to see with this type of cushion, so I'll just follow the groove that I can feel underneath to do the next button. This button were a lot easier to pull through this time, unsure why, but sometimes it's harder than others. So as you can see, it's tightened the buttons nicely. The fabric will even out once we start to pull it tight to the plyboard and staple it. So I'm just finishing that button off with a knot. I'm now going to remove the pins that were attaching the fabric, as the fabric's now attached using the buttons. Now it's time to staple the fabric to the plyboard. This is the hardest bit that I find, especially in terms of the corners, to get them neat. There's no exact science to it. There might be, but I'm a rookie when it comes to reupholstering. So I literally just do it as I go and do as I see fit. It's totally reversible, as you just pull the staple out if it doesn't look right, and have fun with it. Just the material I have has quite of a stretch to it, so it does make it slightly easier. But you'll see how I go about the corners and things shortly. So the first thing I'm doing here is the front of the cushion. So I don't want any folds on the front of the cushion. I want it to be nice and smooth. So I'm just tightening that off to make sure it's nice and smooth with the staple gun. Now doing the same with the back of the cushion, again pulling it nice and tight before I staple it. That'll iron out any creases that are on the front from the button pulling. As you can see, that's pulled it nice and tight. Just the sides to do now in the corners. I'm now just stapling the corners in nice and tight again. And as you can see, it's pulling and giving the nice grooved edges. Now starting to take shape, it's all nice and smooth. Just the last corner to do. Again, I find these the toughest. You have to just really play with the material and see which looks best and neat. I don't think there's no exact science to doing it. I might be doing it the hard way. If you know an easier way, then go for it. But this is the way that I've done it. And this actually wasn't the last corner, it was the first one. So 3 more to go. I'm now just cutting off the excess fabric, what I was talking about earlier. Now I know I've got enough. I just cut the rest off so I've not got too much gather at the back of the cushion. Now for the other corners, these are the front corners. Again, I don't want a fold at the front because I don't want them to be seen. The fold's going to be at the side, which will sit in line with the other cushion at the side of it, so they won't be seen. This is the most fiddly part in getting them tight and neat. And as you can see now, the corner's taking shape. The other corner to do to try and match it. This is also what I find very hard, to match them exactly the same. They're not exactly the same, but they're neat and I think they look nice. And there we have it, the finished cushion. I'm sorry the video's not at the best angle, but now I'm just going to go around and tighten all the bits of fabric so they're nice and tight and give that shape at the front. And there we have it, the finished cushion. And that's the finished cushion. So that's the side, the nice pleat. It is higher at one side than the other. It's not a misshaped cushion, they're meant to be like that. I also did the end cushions. These are a slightly different shape, so were slightly harder, but again I went with a pleat on the corners so they look nice and neat. So this is a video on how I did those smaller back cushions with a slanted edge. I've done the same, pinning the fabric to the cushion and then removing the plyboard. I felt where I wanted the button to go, threading it through the upholstery needle, and then I'm going to pull the button through. Once the needle's through, I'm going to use a bit of tea towel again to tie the button nice and tight. Now for the plyboard and stapling. So I'm stapling the edges, the sides first, and doing the bottom corners, again in a nice straight pleat. This part is the most tricky for this cushion because of the slanted edges. I wanted to make sure they looked even and nice. Just as I get this corner right, I run out of staples, so I needed to refill. Pulling it nice and tight. Hello everyone, so this is the final product. All the cushions and curtains have been redone. This is super pleased with it, of how it's turned out and how it looks. Just modernises the Caravan a bit. The curtains, the big ones. I've also done the bedding, some new bedding. We've gone for a bee theme. I'd reupholstered the headboard and I've put new curtains in the bedroom too. So I'll pop some before and after photos after this video.